Okay, how's it going? My name is Wood, and this is How to Create a Global Utopia Part 1.2, the Democratic Centers. In the last video, we were starting to write some legislation, a constitutional amendment that would provide citizens with a failsafe, a tool to ensure that the will of the people be done, and not the whims of the few. And this is where we started. The citizens of the United States will have the power to overturn the vote of any of their elected officials through a two-thirds supermajority in respect to their voting district. And that should fix the disconnect between the government and the people, as well as drastically reduce corruption and special interest influence over legislation. The question is, though, how would it actually function? How would one physically go about participating in this new mechanism of government? Well, obviously, for starters, we need a dedicated structure. So let's talk about that for a bit. And for now, we'll just call them democratic centers, because that's the first thing I thought of. So before you ask, oh, why would we need to build an expensive building just so we can vote? Ask, why in God's name, after 200 years of democracy, do we not have one now? And for the answer to that question, just go ahead and jump on Wikipedia and look up polling places, and that should explain in detail why we do what we do right now. So, right now, instead of elections being a gleaming beacon of efficiency and participation, where citizens have a solid, familiar institution where they frequently take part in state and federal, local issues with confidence and pride, at a state-of-the-art facility that is nothing short of the envy of the entire planet, like you would expect from a country that so defines itself as being number one when it comes to democracy, to the point where we export it. We throw elections like cheesy little carnivals at schools and YMCA's, churches, and random buildings here and there. Voting districts are constantly being redrawn to manipulate outcomes. So one year you might vote here, and one year you might vote, 7 miles down the road. You do all that, and you get to the place where you're supposed to vote, and you'll end up waiting in line for, sometimes 2 hours. And you'll finally get to this place that looks like a curtained little peep show, where you hope the guy before you didn't pee all over everything. And you hope you'd be using a familiar machine that isn't going to leave you questioning on whether or not you used it right, or your vote got counted. You remember the fiasco back with Al Gore and George Bush? Yeah. So you do all that, and you get your fancy little sticker that says I voted. It makes you feel patriotic, and you can go show it off to your friends, and that's how we do it in the United States. After 200 years, we really need dedicated buildings, an institution. Democracy is an institution, and it needs to be a structure. For one, to instill confidence. So many people don't vote or get involved in politics in any way, shape, or form because they don't feel like their vote counts or anything they say matters. And for the most part, it doesn't. I mean, we vote for leaders. We vote for rulers. It's basically what we do, and then we're out of the picture. So we need to instill confidence in the system. And this little thing on the left here fixes the disconnect, and these buildings would instill confidence in the system. We also need it to provide ease of access for this thing on the left here. Chances are in the beginning this amendment would be used quite often. After 10 or 15 years down the road, I see representatives, really finding out what their constituents want as opposed to what the people that paid him to get in office did. So we need to provide ease of access to this system, and that needs to be a dedicated building. And it needs to be staffed too. One, to provide a voter's registration cards, you know, so you know where to go get that, and you don't have to go to the DMV and all that other stuff. And also to provide up-to-date information on government issues, you know, what bills are taking place, what bills are being contested, and where they stand at the moment, where your representative stands and where he plans to vote on things. So a place to go. Here's another thing. We need to have a nationally standardized system of voting. Like, the voting machines need to be all the same in every state, everywhere you go. It needs to be the same, no confusion whatsoever. So you can go from one place to the next and not be like, oh, this is a completely different system. And that's just ridiculous. After 200 years, we should have this down. People should be coming from all over the world, you know, just to take a look at how well in the United States we carry out democracy. But they're not. So we need state-of-the-art voting machines. And we're going to need vote verification. And that's what these democratic centers can provide. Now, I'm going to go into vote verification in the next video in a little bit of detail, because it's actually important. As it stands now, there is no voters fraud in America. It's inconsequential. We're talking like 2 or 3 over a couple years, and so at the moment it's not even it's not an issue. But with this amendment, that would change. Hands down, that would change. Or the potential for it to change would. Okay, that's all I have time for right now. In the next video, we're going to go into detail about vote verification and why we need it and how it would affect everything. And thanks for watching. Go ahead, shoot me a thumbs up, like, donate, share, all that good stuff. Cheers.